Alrighty, I just learned something very troubling about the bailout of Credit Suisse that was facilitated by the Swiss government. Was it this past Sunday, I guess? So, for those of you who don't know, Credit Suisse was going under. They would have been bankrupt. The only thing that prevented them from going into, actual bankruptcy and being totally liquidated was a shotgun marriage, as it were, with UBS, another Swiss banking giant. In truth, I think everyone agrees that UBS probably would have gone under if Credit Suisse went under, because you got two big banks in Switzerland. I'm sure that there was a lot of cross-pollination there, and Credit Suisse all of a sudden stop paying its bills. Well, then that would be a lot of money that UBS would lose, and then UBS would stop paying its bills, and the contagion would spread. So the Swiss government essentially came in, intervened in the market, and said, okay, you two are going to pool your resources, and hopefully between the two of you, you can remain solvent. And so this led to a restructuring of Credit Suisse's liabilities, and not everyone is going to end up getting paid. So it is kind of like a bankruptcy, but something that's very different, because this was all unilateral by the Swiss government. Ordinarily, what would happen if Credit Suisse had gone bankrupt, its assets would have been liquidated, and you would have had the bondholders get paid. I mean, this is what happens when any company goes bankrupt. The bondholders get paid, then the shareholders get paid, and I think last on that tier list would be the depositors, the uninsured depositors. Obviously, insured depositors, just like in the United States, whatever amount of money that was in the bank that was insured, would have been paid out by the insurer. But other than that, it would, when the bank is liquidated, bondholders and then stockholders would be paid first, and then depositors. Well, in Switzerland they have, and in the United States, you have different tranches of bonds, and I don't want to explain what that is too much, because it doesn't really matter, because the tranches are within the structure of a bond, and so a bond, no matter what tranche it is, should still be prioritized over stockholders. So what the Swiss government did, though, is they prioritized stockholders over one of the tranches of bondholders. And so we have a situation now with Credit Suisse where bondholders are essentially getting the shaft, and this is, as far as I know, unprecedented, in Western finance. This is just not how things work. Bondholders always get paid before stockholders. And this might seem petty, this might seem like a serious 1%er issue, but it kind of calls into question the entire integrity of the bond market across the Western world, because if this happened in Switzerland, which has been known as a banking safe haven, as sort of the gold standard in banking in the West for hundreds of years, this to me is as bad as if it were to happen in England or France or the United States. If it can happen in Switzerland, it can happen anywhere. What happened here is that the government came in and unilaterally rewrote contracts, essentially. There was an understanding, as there always is, that if you hold a bond, yes, there is risk if the entity that you're loaning money to, if they go under, yeah, you might lose your money. But if the company goes bankrupt, their assets will be liquidated, and you will be paid out of those liquidated assets before the stockholders. And so by the government coming in there and just reordering that and putting the stockholders higher, it kind of, it calls into question the safety and security, the relative risk of bonds issued by financial institutions across the West. So, I mean, I would tell you that if I owned bonds, let's say in gosh, what's a mid-sized bank that's not systemically important? Let's say, I don't know, Regions Bank. It's kind of big. You see ads for it on TV, but it's not one of the big four. Let's say I owned bonds in Regions Bank, and there was some concern that, you know, maybe Regions would go under. I'm not saying that that's the case. I have no reason to believe that. I just picked it because of its size, using it as a random example. So I own bonds. I've loaned money to Regions Bank. They go under. They, you know, should enter liquidation. I should get my money, and then whatever money's left will, you know, go to the stockholders. And that doesn't happen. The government comes in and intervenes and says, you know what? No, we're going to merge. We're going to merge Regions Bank with Bank of America, and you bondholders, yeah, we're just going to write off everything that you're owed. We're going to say that you're not owed anything. We're going to zero that out, and then we're going to pay some money out of the, you know, stuff that we're able to liquidate to the stockholders instead. That's a big deal. That's a big difference. Okay. Typically, we understand, hey, stocks are riskier because the bondholders have to be paid first if the company goes under. If you own stock in a company that goes bankrupt, there's very little chance that you're going to get, you know, a decent chunk of your money back. Most likely, you're going to lose almost everything. If you're a bondholder, though, if the company goes bankrupt, you know, there's a better chance that you'll recover most of your investment. It's never a guarantee. You might, as a bondholder, recover nothing because the company might be in that much debt and have that many obligations to pay even before the bondholders. But what the Swiss government has done is create uncertainty in the markets, which I don't think has been expressed yet. I don't think that this is priced in at all, this risk. But there is a risk now, as far as I'm concerned and as far as many other people are concerned, that you don't really know the risk of a bond versus a stock. And so I think if this is a fluke, if this is a one-off, and the authorities learn their lesson and they realize, hey, we shouldn't create this kind of uncertainty, then maybe things will be okay. But if the next bank that goes belly up, we see a similar situation where some bondholders are given less priority than common stockholders, there's going to be a big problem. We're going to see that start reverberating, and we're going to see a lot of chaos in the bond market and in the stock market. I can't even tell you. I mean, I would think that it would lead to a relative depreciation in bond prices across the board, you know, at least in the corporate space, particularly in finance, financial institutions, you know, banks or otherwise. So this is just one more issue to watch in the ongoing financial crisis. I don't know that there will be anything to add on this later down the road. I will follow it, though. There's apparently going to be lawsuits, so we'll see if this evolves into a broader trend. So with that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow.